And we are live on another edition of the K&K Sports Show. Full crew is here tonight, minus Mr. Rosen, who, with a little update, will be back within the next couple of weeks. He sent out a nice text that he's getting back accustomed to Jersey. But for opening introductions, talking about Jersey, a man who was just back in Jersey for a few days, Mr. Kirkpatrick, your Miami Hurricanes made a nice run, but like I said, great to spend some time with you back in Jersey. And how are you tonight, Mr. Kirkpatrick?
I'm doing good. I'm going to represent the Miami. Proud of their season. Little exceeded expectations. That's always nice when your team exceeds expectations. And yeah, Kurt, like you said, a nice trip back to New Jersey. Unforgettable night, for your dad. Great time seeing everybody, and a night I won't forget. And I want to thank you and your family for including me in it. That was something I'll never forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our good friend Albert Knopper saying, "What's up, fellas? What's up, Albert?"
What's up, Albert?
Hey, what's up, Dutch?
Mr. Shear, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Hopefully, you guys are all doing good. Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend. And yeah, ready to talk some March Madness. MLB opening day started. What's up, Ryan? How you doing? And yeah, looking forward to it.
And Mr. Scoops, what's going on, my friend?
How y'all doing? Obviously, as you said, baseball is back. We're 6 games into the season now. New York's off to a 4-2 start. Very happy about that. Looking forward to getting into it. And, of course, we got the NFL draft not too far away, which is always an exciting time, especially when Howie Roseman is the GM of your team.
I'll just go by saying baseball's back. Obviously, we're going to talk NCAA tournament men's and women. That has finished. But the only thing that matters to me, Mr. Kirkpatrick, you know where I'm going. Next Saturday or next Sunday, Knicks, Cavs, Donovan Mitchell versus the Knicks. And, no slight to any team in New York, but there's nothing like a playoff game in Madison Square Garden. It's the most electric thing you'll ever see. And games 3 and 4, when Cleveland comes in, it's going to be an atmosphere like nothing else. So I am just super pumped about this team. And there's pressure for them to win. We'll get into it, but there's going to be pressure for them to win this first playoff series. So, Mr. Kirkpatrick, where do you want to go tonight?
Well, I think we should get into some college basketball. We had the men's Final Four and women's Final Four last week. Like you just said, Kurt, I think it's the only time, guys, you won't hear Kurt mention Russell Wilson as if the Knicks got a shot in the playoffs. So let's hope they make a deep run because we won't hear Broncos for a couple weeks.
Damn right.
And we got some NBA, and then we're going to throw some baseball in towards the end. Albert's saying it's an area he doesn't know much about. Well, maybe we can help you out, Albert. Help you out. Any questions you got about it, throw them out at us, but we'll help you out. We got some good people on here with a lot of knowledge about baseball, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you either pick a team to start out with to root for, or just in general the game itself. So anything you want, Albert, we got you covered. But let's get into some college. Men's college, guys, the Final Four and the championship game. I think Carson's going to give us a couple topics, questions. He's got something for us, and I'm going to pass it off to him, guys, to see what he's got for us.
Yeah, so Final Four was this past Saturday. You had San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, and then you also had in the second game UConn taking on Kenny's boys, the Miami Hurricanes. I think the better of the two games was definitely the first game, kind of up in the air. I think Florida Atlantic was a 1.5-point underdog, and that game was back and forth down to the wire. San Diego State, they got the defensive rebound, went all the way down the court. People were saying, shoot it, and they made a crazy buzzer beater to win and move on to the national championship. So Florida Atlantic, unbelievable season, unbelievable run, but their Final Four national championship dreams came crashing down on a buzzer beater. But they got a bright future for that program, and San Diego State was able to take that one down. So they moved on to the national championship. Then you had the favorite pre-Final Four, UConn taking on Kenny's Miami Hurricanes. Kind of pretty dominant performance from UConn. Miami had their glimpses here and there to try to get back in the game, but they couldn't really get over the hurdle, and the UConn Huskies were able to take it down, which kind of set up a UConn versus San Diego State national championship, just like how we all predicted, right, boys? UConn versus San Diego State. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Bunch of upsets in this bracket. It was absolute mayhem and crazy madness, but UConn just pretty much took control over this game right from the start. I think the closest that San Diego State came with was within 8 points. I think that was the closest, kind of towards the back end in the second half, towards the stretch. But UConn, yeah, they won their fifth national title. It kind of seems like UConn's being kind of forgotten about. Every like 4 or 5 years, they seem to come out of nowhere and make a really deep run in their tournament. It's their fifth national title in school history. So I'll start with you, Ryan. We'll go Ryan, Kenny, and then Kurt. Simple question. Is UConn now considered a powerhouse in college basketball?
I don't know if I would consider them a powerhouse. That being said, you said that they're kind of forgotten. I'll tell you this: I grew up an hour outside of Syracuse. No one forgets UConn over here. We are always Syracuse has always had gotten played tough by UConn when I was growing up. I went to actually a game against UConn in 1 year. So I think that when you say powerhouse, that to me calls to mind like the Kansas, the Kentuckys, the the Dukes and whatnot. I don't think they're quite to that level yet. I want to see them, like you said, it's every few years they kind of, make some noise. I want to see a little more consistency from them before I put them in that category. But I mean, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you've got Coach Boeheim retired, Coach Krzyzewski retired. We don't know how much longer Coach Calipari's got. So I would wonder with some of these quote unquote legendary coaches and now obviously the with the way that things are going, where players are usually leaving after 1 year, I don't think it would be that insurmountable for them to actually gain some traction. But I want to see it more consistently from them first.
Nice. Kenny, what do you think?
I'm not going to really disagree with Ryan, but I'm going to say they can be a powerhouse. And, and we're going to get into women's in a few minutes, but you got the women's on the other side that's powerhouse every year. And now if I was a student, like if I was a basketball player with the transfer portals now, and not only that, the recruiting that UConn's going to be on top of my list by what they did in this tournament. They did not have probably 5 minutes of worry throughout this whole tournament. So for those reasons, I'm going to say they can be a powerhouse. Now they're going to be in what I think is a powerhouse conference to come for years. Kurt's boys got Patino. Ryan's boys at Seton Hall, they got a new coach. I think he's going to change things around over there, and you still got your powerhouses. UConn just won the championship. Creighton's there. So I think it's a powerhouse conference going forward, as opposed to just UConn being a powerhouse. So it's going to be fun to watch Big East basketball in the future. I'm telling you, it's going to be fun.
I agree. What do you think, Kurt?
Guys, Infectionist Brad's checking in. What's going on, Brad?
Hey, Brad.
What's up, Brad?
You know what? I when I heard this week, I was like, wow, because my answer would have been exactly what Ryan said. I'm not going to put him with Kansas. I don't know the other time. I know he said Kentucky maybe and Duke. But you know what? Carson, how many championships does UConn have now?
That's their fifth national title.
How many titles does Duke have?
Oh, boy. Let me check. Hang on.
Check it out. Because when I heard this week, I was stunned.
They also have 5.
They have 5. So
Yeah.
when it's like people don't, you know what? Again, I don't know. I wouldn't think, just like Ryan said, I wouldn't put them exactly in my mind as a powerhouse, but they have 5 national championships and, 3 different coaches, right? Calhoun, Ollie, and now Danny Hurley did it. So, hey, I'm giving them props, man. They were good. They were one of the best teams we've seen in a long time that just dominated everybody. By the way, Eddie Murphy, good evening, gentlemen.
What's up, Ed?
What's up, Eddie?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't do it, but when you look at it, that stat of them and Duke having the same amount of titles was, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Calderio, good evening, guys. What's up, Mark?
Mark,
Hey,
what's
Mark.
up?
Nice. Yeah. So that's going to basically kind of wrap up my college basketball segment. I kind of have a little bit of a weirder question, I would say. We kind of spoke on this last week, with all the the upsets? Is it good for college basketball? Do you wish that there was more of the so-called powerhouse blue buds like the Kansases and the Dukes and the Kentuckys of the world? But apparently, according to ESPN, it was the lowest rated got the lowest ratings of any national championship game in March Madness history. So I guess the question would point to is the men's college basketball tournament in jeopardy, or do you think that the women's of what we've seen recently in the past couple of days, could they possibly get to the men's standards? I'll go with you, Ryan.
Yeah. So I was watching, a couple of shows that were sort of recapping both the women's championship and the men's championship. And the general consensus seemed to be that it was definitely a highlight, like a high note rather, for the women's and not so much for the men's championship. Now, is that because of a declining interest? Is that just because, we kind of got, and I don't want to disrespect the incredible run by San Diego State, but we kind of got a matchup there that wasn't super compelling to a lot of college basketball fans? I don't know the answer to that, obviously. But I think that, and Eddie Murphy just commented, made a good point. Caitlin Clark has been obviously in the news a lot recently. I think a lot of people who don't necessarily, or may not, I should say, necessarily consistently watch WNBA probably did tune in for her because of, again, what she's accomplished and what her teammates have accomplished. I think that there's definitely some positive signs for women's basketball coming up. I don't know necessarily that there's a correlation between the two. I think it just happened to be a set of circumstances where great things happened and aligned for women's basketball this year. And depending on your perspective, maybe that wasn't so much the case for men's basketball, at least in certain respects.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Kenny, what do you think? Do you think the men's tournament's in trouble, or are you not worried too much about it?
It's a great question, Carson. And I just want to say, hello to John Beal. And Beelan's saying, good evening, fellas. I didn't pick the winner of the tournament, but he did say, watch out for UConn. It was one of his Final Four teams. That was a good pick, Beelan.
Nice.
Definitely in a good evening to you, sir. I just, maybe next week or the week after, if Rodgers isn't on the Jets, we may have to get you on and you can do a little prayer session.
Yeah.
that he comes, little mass, Kurt. We'll get a little mass that Beelan could start to get Aaron Rodgers over there. But to your question, Carson, it may be in a little trouble. I was listening to a sports talk show down on iHeart. I get the WFAN New York, and they were doing ratings. And Kurt, I don't know if you know this, but Carson and Ryan, but this was the lowest rated final championship in years. And I think part of it, though, Carson and guys, is started at 9:20 at night on a Monday.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather see it on a Sunday, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. Have the girls and the guys back to back. You're going to get viewership that way. The diehard basketball fans would love to see that back to back championships.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, comment of the night, Mr. Beelan. Let's not talk about masks. I still haven't seen my Braves mask for 2 years now. Kenny promised Beelan masks. He never delivered with the Braves mask.
Well, I guess my Southern twang, because I'm further south now out of all you guys, because Mr. Rosen moved to Florida. I guess my Southern twang, MASS, not MASK.
I thought you said mask too, and I was
that's my Southern Maryland in me. Mass. We're gonna have a little mass ceremony there for you, Beal. I know about the mask. I'm sorry, but I think they are in a little trouble. But I think they need more of the blue bloods. I mean, look at your Final Four. Besides UConn, San Diego State, how much of an audience are they drawing? Florida Atlantic, how much of an audience are they drawing? So you got your underdogs, but how much of a fan base do they have that are really sitting there and saying, I got to watch Florida Atlantic, I got to watch San Diego State? Mm-hmm. So I think you need more of those blue bloods. You need the Kentuckys in there. You need the Dukes. Your Michigan State, Carson, the UCLA is out west. And I think you need more of these teams going forward. Otherwise, I think men's could be in little trouble. Now, we'll say, 10 years ago, Kurt, ACC, right? Powerhouse.
Yeah.
Big Ten was always a powerhouse. These conferences are taking second wind now to like the Big East and other conferences. They need to get back on track. The SEC was never a big conference besides Kentucky. Now you got Alabama, you got all these other teams in the SEC, Auburn, etc. So I think he'll be all right, Carson, but I would not be surprised that if we and I love the upsets. If we start seeing these more and more of these upsets, I think men's could be in a little trouble.
It does.
Gotcha.
If I can jump in real quick,
Yeah.
it does kind of surprise me though that that is the case. You know, where we're saying we want more blue bloods in and all of that stuff, because I feel like most of the time when you talk to just I don't want to say casual sports fans, but people who people who just watch sports to just kind of unwind and such. I feel like you usually hear people say, "Oh, I want to root for the underdog," and these teams are always in. Let's get some new. I feel like that's a common theme you hear. Like I feel like people in the NFL or MLB are often saying, "Oh, this team's not usually in it that much. I'm rooting for them." So the fact that we're looking at it in this situation where maybe it's because it wasn't, a blue blood going up against the underdog. Maybe it's because there were two teams that aren't really in there that much. I don't quite know, but that kind of did surprise me that it wasn't the opposite situation where it became more compelling because it's like, oh, these teams aren't usually in. Let's see what this is about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree, Ryan. Kurt, what do you think?
I agree. And you would think just like Ryan said, but I remember listening to something a couple of weeks ago and they say, a lot of people are, oh, I want these upsets. And early on, it's great. But then when you go forward and you're like, oh, like that's an Elite Eight matchup, like your Final Four is that. And Kenny made a great point. I think what's big sometimes with the Final Four is one, like a hatred for a team, right? Like, think about it. It's either you love Duke or you hate Duke. So it's like, all right, everybody, if I'm not a Duke fan, I'm rooting against Duke no matter who they play.
Yeah.
Then you also say like a big time coach, like you said, Michigan State, like an Izzo factor, a Pitino factor. You had like Boeheim. You have those coaches, Krzyzewski last year, and you really didn't do it. And the crazy stat this year, this is the first time, and I don't even know how long, they said out of the 4 teams, there wasn't one freshman starter on any of the 4 teams. So you didn't have like the big star. But, we're going to get into, by the way, Jenny Hoops is saying, hi, fellas. What's going on, Hoops?
What's up,
Hey,
Jenny?
And we're going to get into the women because it's kind of crazy, but the women had more of the bigger stars, right? They had probably the bigger coach with Dawn Staley in there. They had the bigger, like, names, so I don't know. I mean, I guess you get it 2 ways, right? You want the upsets and you want the little Cinderella stories, but then when you get to like a Final Four of it, you're like, oh, it lacks that star power. So I don't know if it's in trouble, but I'm telling you, and I think I'm going to get this, the women next year too. It's even going to be more interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of wrapping up my discussion on the men's tournament. I thought it was a good, solid tournament overall, but I agree with you guys. I think everybody loves to see upsets, but like kind of how Kurt was saying, once it kind of gets down to the Final Four, maybe one Cinderella is cool to see.
Right.
But we kind of had a situation where all 4 of them were kind of Cinderellas in their own way. So I think March Madness is still going to be March Madness. It's going to be great to see for years to come, but I think it's going to wrap it up for the men's if you want to take over, Kurt, for the women's.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Great job, Carson. We'll do the women's now. We'll segue right into the women's. I like that.
Yeah, cool. And again, great job, Carson. And just like you said, I mean, I love the men's basketball tournament. I'm as a St. John's fan. I haven't been in. They haven't won a game since 2002. So I just want to get in the damn tournament. So hopefully that happens starting next year. But I was definitely invested in this women's tournament. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've always watched it, but this year, I mean, maybe I did have a couple little wagers going on it too. But once I started watching it, I was like, man, I'm watching these Elite Eight games. I'm definitely watching the Final Four. And there's 3 topics I want to hit. But first topic is Caitlin Clark. I mean, this girl from Iowa, just unbelievable. She probably came onto the scene last year. But what she was doing this year, I mean, she had the first probably, 40-point triple-double, I think, in NCAA tournament history. So my question for you, Kenny, I'll start with this. You got Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, Rebecca Lobo. We can go with a bunch of players. But Kenny, is she the best college women's basketball player ever?
Gosh, you got to put her up there, and she's only a sophomore, right? I mean, I I I haven't watched much of her, so I can't. It wouldn't be fair for me to say yes, but I got to put her in that conversation. I came down. I was by you and Jen, and I came downstairs, and Jen had the game on in the living room. There was 5 minutes left, and we were all getting very tired. We had a long day, but I was glued to that TV, and what I saw, I say 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I caught the second half of the game. She single-handedly beat South Carolina, and I'm considering her the male equivalent to. I'm calling her the female Steph Curry, and that's a high. That's that's a Kobe Bryant. You could say that, but I'm saying Steph Curry because he played in college, and I'm calling her the female Steph Curry, and she's going to be elite going into the WNBA. So we'll see, Kurt. I gotta answer that more fairly, when I see her in a full season, but I will say she's in that conversation.
Okay, Carson.
Yeah, I agree with Kenny. To be honest, I don't really tune into women's basketball that whole much, but I mean, ever since Caitlin Clark started to kind of, show up in the tournament, I mean, when you're averaging triple double, averaging 35 points a game, I don't care who you are. That's tough. I was looking up more info about her. She was playing with guys on her high school AAU team. She was just destroying the competition. She didn't care who she was playing against. She can just flat out play basketball. So it was really cool to see. I think it's huge for the NCAA in general. I mean, I believe it was the most watched women's basketball championship of all time, and that was mostly because of Caitlin Clark. So definitely, I agree with Kenny. You got to put her up there right now. Again, I haven't really seen too much just recently, the past couple of weeks, but I think she's definitely up there right now for sure.
Scoop.
And Kurt, just real quick, Carson, I will be watching a lot of women's basketball next year because of her. So that's what I just wanted to add.
Mm-hmm.
Scoops.
I agree with what you just said, Kenny. I will be more, compelled to watch games next year for WNBA because of people like her. Pardon me, people like her. That being said, I admittedly don't have a ton of statistics offhand about her versus some of the other greats, Sue Bird, Cynthia Cooper, Maya Moore, and others. And I know that there's been a lot of very talented and successful women in the WNBA over the course of time. That being said, you can't deny what she accomplished in the last few weeks, and if she's able to come in with a solid sort of follow-up second act to what she accomplished, then she's going to be right there with those names before too long.
Scoops, I'm going to come back to you right on this one because you just mentioned how like next year, and I'm going to go to my point 3 and I'll go back to point number 2. Well, my point 3, Scoops, because you kind of talked about it a little bit next year, right? And you're saying you're more inclined to, I'm going to watch some more women's games. I just think next year, obviously you got Caitlin Clark coming back, right? You got UConn, who has, I want to say UConn made the Final Four 10 years in a row. Mm-hmm. They didn't get to it this year. But also they had major injuries. Maybe the best player in the country before she gets hurt, Paige Beckers, comes back next year. So, now you have a hungry UConn team who's probably going to be ranked preseason number 1 with Paige Beckers. Could she be the best player in the country? You got Caitlin Clark with Iowa. Is she the best player in the country? South Carolina, the coach from LSU, the whole situation with LSU and Clark and all that fiasco. Is like next year, is this like really where it's going to be like, I'm not just going to wait to the tournament. Like I'm going to tune in to this, to this sport next year.
Good, Kirk, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So this year looks like Iowa got put on the map, right? The women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
If you were a high school player and Iowa was recruiting you, would you want to go to Iowa to play with her for the next year, maybe 2 years, or would you still want to go elsewhere? Does this put Iowa like in the top recruiting classes now because of a superstar like this?
How could it not? I mean, they're a Final Four team. They're going to be on TV because of Caitlin Clark. right? And isn't that usually how it goes? It's like if now Caitlin Clark, I could be the next Caitlin Clark at Iowa. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I think it's definitely gonna help with recruiting. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna take that over UConn, right? I mean, you're still gonna have that, but I think they're gonna be in the ball game to recruit now.
Okay, it's scary because you can get a couple players on side of her. That's scary.
All right, so let's do this. You know what? Let's skip question 3 because you guys kind of answered this. I want to get to one more thing. And getting back to Caitlin Clark and LSU in this national championship, it kind of got a little, I don't know what word you want to, interesting at the end of the game. One of the games beforehand, Caitlin Clark did the whole like "you can't see me" John Cena thing, and then after, when LSU was blowing Iowa out, so with a couple seconds left or a minute left, and they're up double digits. Angel Reese and LSU, her real good players, basically followed Caitlin Clark around on the court to kind of like get near, get in her face. And she did the whole like, here's my ring and, you can't see me. So I guess my point is, Kenny, I'll start with you. Was Angel Reese wrong for what she did?
I didn't physically see it, which I was on my way back from New Jersey. So I didn't physically see it, but I've read up on it. I can't honestly answer it one way or the other, but I mean, you see it all over. And if that's the worst that came out of this game, I personally don't have a problem with it because I think Caitlin Clark, kind of maybe does kind of like the same thing, if it's the other way around. So again, I didn't see the game, so I can't physically say what I saw, but what I've been reading, I personally don't have a 100% problem with it.
Now, I'll answer that, and I'll be honest. Like, I don't really have a problem, like, with her doing it. I mean, listen, you see it in the NFL, right? Like, somebody will do like the Tyreek Hill thing, and remember in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, the guy from Tampa Bay like went up to him and did like the peace sign like into his face. Like maybe the part of like following her, and she kind of did it like when she knew like the game was over and stuff like that, like trying to track her down to do it.
But let me interrupt you, Kurt.
I mean, listen, Caitlin Clark
you don't know what happened throughout the game. Like,
right?
Caitlin Clark saying things when they're off the air during the commercials.
Caitlin Clark did it to somebody else in another game, so I don't really have a problem with Angel Reese doing it. I really don't. I mean, hey, she wouldn't do it if they weren't winning, right? So they won. They beat Caitlin Clark, and listen, Caitlin Clark came up and said, I don't have a problem with, I don't have a problem with it.
No, there's a lot worse things you could be.
There's a lot worse
gesturing.
It helps that Angel Reese won't be playing her next year because you'll probably drop 50. But that's my thoughts. Carson, what's yours?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of agree with Kenny. You don't really know what's being said on the court during the commercial breaks. I do agree though that from what I've seen and heard, when Caitlin Clark did her whole like, look at me, I'm the greatest, that was kind of towards the Iowa bench, walking away from the Louisville bench. But Angel Reese literally like
did it right to her
face multiple times. So I think it's a different situation. I mean, I think it's great for women's basketball in general. I mean, the NCAA should be thrilled that happened because look what we're doing right now, boys. We're talking about it. So I mean, bring all the attention that you want to women's basketball because it definitely needs it. And I mean, starting next year, you're going to see a lot more viewers watching LSU and Iowa. It kind of becomes a whole what's Caitlin Clark's redemption story now? Does she go back into the Final Four? Is she hungry for more? I think it's great for ratings in general. But yeah, I don't really have a big problem with it now that I kind of dissected it all. But I thought it was definitely interesting because you don't really see much trash talk go down in women's basketball. So I thought it's good for ratings and to bring more attention to women's sports. So I thought it was good and bad. It wasn't the best way to do it, probably not, but whatever way you can get it done, you get it done. So I thought it was interesting overall.
And Scoops.
I mean, I was gonna make 3 points in my head, and you guys just made every damn one of them. But I my 3
That's
points
what
were gonna be
happens when you go last. Well, make sure
yeah.
you go first on the next one.
We didn't know what was being said back and forth. We don't know who's been jawing back and forth and what's been said and whatnot. Caitlin Clark herself came out and said, "Hey,
They
I have
beat
no
it. Yep.
issues. I have no issues with what she did." And I mean, like you guys just said, we are having an extended discussion about that game and about the players and the because what happened because of that. And a lot of this I heard on the Herd on FS1. Everyone here by now knows that I'm a big fan of watching the Herd. And he was making a lot of the same points. It brought attention, and Caitlin Clark was like, "Hey, it good, good for them. I don't have a problem with it. If they're gonna play well, then they deserve it." And it's kind of what it's kind of what I said last week. I don't remember what the context was, but I remember being on the show last week and basically saying, "Oh, I think it was a player like did something in the final minutes after the game had already won from a different game," and I said, "Hey, I mean, if you're gonna be able to play well enough, then the solution to not get taunted on or and whatnot is play better. That's what competition's about is trying to get the best out of everybody."
All right, and last thing, I saw one more, and again, you're absolutely right when you said, Caitlin Clark came right out and was like, I don't have a problem with it. And Caitlin Clark also came out with another issue. And just wondering if any of you guys have issue with this. And again, it's Angel Reese is the storyline, but Jill Biden the other night came out and put on in a tweet that, even though we always have the champs come to the White House, she said, I would like to invite both teams, since they played a great competitive game, to the White House. And then Angel Reese tweets, joke, like, what a joke. And basically then I think Jill Biden came out today and said, not an apology, but, maybe like I was wrong for asking both teams, yada, yada. And then Reese commented again, I'm not accepting an apology. You said it, so you meant it. So basically that whole back and forth. And then Caitlin Clark came out and said, no, we don't belong at the White House. They won. That's for the national champs. So Kenny, any issue with Reese in that sense, going back and stuff with like Jill Biden tweeting and stuff like that?
That I do have a problem with. And, it's not politics or anything like that I'm getting into, but it's an honor to get invited to the White House, and not too many people do. So if he wants to invite two teams to the White House,
Well,
who is Angel?
it was Jill Biden, the wife.
Yeah, who? Okay,
Okay.
Joe Biden. Who is Angel Reese to say joke, and who's her to say that? You won the championship. Be happy you won the championship. Be happy you're going to the White House to meet the president and be honored at the White House. I was not going to be recognized as the champs. I was going to go and visit the White House like you're going to go and visit the White House, and they're going to be the second best team. They're not going to go there as co-champions. So I do have a problem with Angel Reese's comments. And you know what? She doesn't want to go. Don't force her to go. Don't say you got to go.
Me and
Keep her
Jen were
home.
talking. Me and Jen were talking about this, and I asked Jen, and actually, I'm sorry, we were talking, and Jen made a great point. And my second question for you, Kenny, is she said, this is where the coach should be stepping in. Shut your mouth to Angel Reese, because you're not talking on behalf of LSU. I talk on behalf of LSU, because she kept saying we, like she's going to control this team. So do you think this coach should have should have stepped in?
She needs to step in and keep her out. She don't want to go. That's it. Now you made your point. You don't want to go to the White House. You're staying home. Make a point of it. Be a coach. You don't want to go? I'm not going to force you to go, because it's going to be one headache after the other and all the media attention. That's what she's looking for.
Carson,
that I do have a problem with. Don't have a problem with their antics on the court, but off the court, I have a problem with.
Carson, what about you? Problem with that whole little situation?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Kenny. I think it's I think if I was invited to the White House, I think it would be an honor to go. But at the same time, you work your whole season to win the national championship, and then that's kind of like, here, congratulations, come to the White House, but we're going to invite the runner-up as well. So, like, does it really feel as special having 2 teams compared to just the national champs there? So I kind of understand the point of view from Angel Reese's perspective. Like, hey, what is this? Like, you're gonna invite the runners up too? Then what are we trying so hard for? We might as well have just lost then if you're gonna invite both of us anyways. Essentially, is what she's basically getting at. So I think yes and no. I think it is an honor. I think she might have crossed the line, kind of going taking shots, but I don't have a problem with it, but I think it could have been handled better. But so I agree and disagree with what Angel did, and then the way that Jill Biden put out that tweet. So,
Yeah, you know what, Carson? I'm going to be honest. I didn't even think of it like that, but I'm going to agree with you 100%. I mean, when you really do think of it, I mean, listen, could you say it's a nice gesture? Yeah, but I mean, that's not about nice gestures, like that is the honor. You're not giving everybody national championship rings, right?
Right.
You're not giving the Eagles a Lombardi trophy or,
Thanks for that, by the way.
No, that was my only thing I thought of, but or Miami Hurricane. I'm sorry, San Diego State doesn't get that's just not the way it is. But you know what? That's where Angel Reese should have just said, if that happens, I'm not going. And then you know what? You don't go. You don't have to go. You don't have to, like you're saying, you don't have to go. Don't go. There's been players who haven't gone, so don't go. But don't make it like Kenny's saying spectacle about you.
I agree.
Then I refuse. I'm not going to go. So, Scoop, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think for the support that I show your Broncos, you could stop coming for the Eagles with collateral damage.
You know what? That was the only team I thought of on that point.
But back to this, I agree more with Carson than I do with Kenny in this one. I agree, like, for example, the extended history, not just with college basketball, not just with women's basketball, but in general across American sports, has been the champion typically gets invited to go to the White House. To break that tradition now, especially in women's sports, when women's sports are finally breaking through and finally getting more attention that they deserve, I feel like that is just asking, I think, for negative publicity that that people are not going to necessarily respond well to, and I don't think that that's something that they want or deserve. I think that now, again, do I agree with the way that Angel Reese handled it? No, I can reason and respect her point. I would have gone about it a little bit differently. Maybe, like you said, let the coach be the spokesperson, or maybe if you want to say something publicly, maybe be a little more in depth.
Don't go.
If you want to say something publicly, maybe be a little more nuanced and a little more, something in that regard, and put out an actual statement as opposed to just, an offhanded tweet. So yeah, I definitely can very much see her point. That being said, I would have handled it perhaps with, a little more forethought.
My example I'll bring, Kurt, is I have a contest for the three of you guys. Carson wins that contest, but you and the three of you are neck and neck the whole time. I'm going to start feeling sorry. I'm like, damn, all three of you guys deserve to come to my party in my beach house. I'm going to invite all three of you, but I'm going to recognize Carson with the award. And the two of you are just going to be, visiting and in the background, hanging out. So Iowa doesn't need to be the focus of attention here. If you wanted to send them to the White House, have LSU be honored and have Iowa just do the tour of the White House to visit.
I know, Kenny, but you know what? Like, that's like saying,
what I'm saying is I don't think Carson would have a problem if the two of you guys were invited as well.
But here's the thing, and Carson nailed it before, right? And we'll talk about the Super Bowl again. I mean, the NFC Championship here, Scoops, I'm going to give you props. That game was a blowout. But,
right.
Cincinnati, you guys, did you get screwed on that call? Did you, you guys come to the Super Bowl too. It doesn't work like that. Like, you bust your, all year, and only 2 teams are going to that Super Bowl. So, like Carson said, like, that's the honor, is to get to that Super Bowl, to get to that Final Four, to hold the Lombardi Trophy, to hold the World Series trophy. So I do kind of understand, like, again, I don't agree how she did it, but when you're like the word, like, what?
Aren't
Like,
we in times where we need to be united as one?
you
So
know,
if they want to invite two teams to the White House, maybe it's showing something that we can be united as one. The two teams in the final get to go to the White House. Maybe it's time that we do
nah,
change.
I disagree with that. You guys, Carson, you agree with that or disagree? I disagree with that.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree because again, it's like, these teams work their whole season to accomplish one goal, and that's to win a championship in whatever sport it is. But it's like if I won the gold medal, it's like giving out 2 gold medals for
Yes.
second place. It's like you worked your whole life for it, but you're going to give the second guy the same prize that
Right.
the first place guy got. So I don't know. That just doesn't sit well right with me. But I mean, but also, I mean, it could kind of go both ways. You invite the champs one day, and then you invite the
Right. Maybe,
Hawkeyes if they want to come a different day. But I think to be in together, that doesn't really make any sense to me.
All right, Kenny, I'll tell you this. See, the women's are working. We spent the most time ever on
Yeah.
the show with the women
Yeah.
tonight.
That's great.
So, but it was great topics, and I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to this next year. I really am.
All right. Before I get into NBA, Ryan said he had some breaking news in Major League Baseball. So let me get to him real quick on that before I get to NBA.
Yeah, so this came out while we were talking about WNBA, and I wanted to bring it up because obviously it's baseball related, but it's also bigger than sports. So as we all know, a few months ago, White Sox closer Liam Hendricks announced that he was undergoing treatment, had been diagnosed with lymphoma. He announced today he has rung the bell at the hospital and he has finished his rounds of chemotherapy.
Nice.
There you go. Nice.
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 Speedy recovery. Hope he can get back on the field soon. All right, I'm going to do some NBA real quick. Like I said, WNBA took a lot, so I'll try and shorten this a little bit so we can get back on schedule. I got some NBA East and NBA West, kind of same questions, but I'll start with the East, and I'll go first one. I'll go Kurt, Ryan, Carson. Kurt, out of the big 3 in the East right now, Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, who would you want to avoid playing in the playoffs out of the 3?
I would say Milwaukee. I just think Greek Freak's on another level. You have to have a special guy to defend him. They have the championship pedigree. They've been there. They won it. Holiday's a stud. My boy Middleton is a big time player, playoff guy right now. I just think they got a nice bench. I would say Milwaukee.
Ryan, you agree, or are you going to go different team here?
No, I'm with Kurt on this one. They have perhaps the biggest differentiator from the other 2 teams. They've been there, done that. Not to mention they have arguably, and I know that this is up for some debate, but they have arguably the best player in the NBA in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I don't believe that when you have the championship pedigree and arguably the best player in the NBA, it's kind of hard for me to look at you and say, anything, and kind of waffle on how much I think you can do in the playoffs. I think that you're the team to beat until proven otherwise. Boston's not proven that they can do anything late in the playoffs. The Sixers, I feel like I hear every year that the Sixers are going to the finals, and every year one thing or another happens where someone gets hurt or someone gets traded or someone has chemistry issues or one thing or another, or coach gets whatever. I feel like the 76ers are perennially, it's like the Dodgers of a few years ago where they were always making it but never really finishing the deal. To that end, I got to say that I'm with the Bucks until proven otherwise.
Sweeping it, Carson?
Yeah, I would also say Bucks, but as of right now, I wouldn't sleep on the Celtics too. They just got to the NBA Finals last year. I know the Bucks had some injury issues in the past, but so we'll see if Giannis can stay healthy during this playoff run. But I think Tatum and Brown, that is a 1-2 punch like no other, especially if they get hot in the playoffs. They ran through the Eastern conference in the playoffs last year. So I would also be leery of the Eastern Conference champs last year in the Celtics. But the Bucks are right on their tail too with Giannis, obviously, in Middleton and that team in general. But I think the Celtics are hungry because they know they got to the finals last year and they're trying to get back there again. Even the Sixers, Embiid, he's coming off an MVP type season this year. Him and Harden, they might be cooking up something in the playoffs. It starts next week, the play-in tournament. So it should be interesting. But I'd say those three.
Yeah, I'm with you, Carson. But you know what, Kurt? I want the Celtics because we match up great against the Celtics, right? So I give our Knicks a shot there, but Celtics scare me. You know, Tatum and Brown, like you said, I think other teams don't match up well against them. So, and of course the Bucks and the Sixers too. But I'm gonna go, if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go Celtics. Scare me. Other way around, Carson. Which team of these three would you feel is most vulnerable to a first round upset?
Vulnerable Sixers for sure. Again, they've got the star power before in the past. They've had teams that just can't get quite over the hump. Everything from the Kawhi buzzer beater a few years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals, they just seem to have had a bad string of luck in the playoffs recently. So I think the most vulnerable would be for sure the Sixers.
Ryan.
I agree. It's also the Sixers, but for me, that's kind of just because I think that they're just not on the same level. It's more, a props to what Milwaukee and Boston. Let's keep in mind the drama that Boston was dealing with coming into this season. They had a major shakeup of a couple different things, and that could have easily disrupted any number of even very talented teams. And they've still played. They're the second. Pretty comfortably the second team in the East right now. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're one of, I'll always give this to them, they're one of the few cultures in the NBA that actually prioritizes defense still, and I'll always respect them for that, which is going to be important when you get into the latter rounds of the playoffs. So just because of those things, I'm going to say the 76ers are the team that I think are the most vulnerable right now.
Eddie Siciliano has his own breaking news. He's saying Aaron Rodgers is hiding in a cave in New Jersey.
There it is. Breaking news from Sis. Love it. I want to know what cave that is. I don't know if there's any caves in New Jersey. Kurt, do you know of any cave?
Probably Prince. Maybe I think, that's Maryland. Prince Frederick, I was going to say. That's Maryland.
Where you take, Kurt? You going Sixers as well?
Yeah, I am. Doc Rivers, a lot of times, like, the word is he's going to crumble in the playoffs. Embiid is always an injury away, and Harden has not been at all a big-time playoff guy. So I'll take the Sixers.
I think my answer to this would be whoever plays the Heat. That's going to be a dangerous team, and that's going to segue right into my next question, and I'll start this one with Ryan. Besides the big three, Ryan, who could be a sleeper in this Eastern Conference?
I'm really upset that I'm about to say this, but it's your damn New York Knicks. The season that they've had, just their roster, in my vantage point, should not be as good as it is. Your second best or your third best player is Emmanuel Quickly or someone like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the roster, and they went and got Jalen Brunson, who the Mavericks were actively looking to move, and suddenly they look like one team slips out of that top three. They look like they could be a freaking championship contender. And I promise you guys this: I'll be rooting against them in every round. But that is one team I would not want to face.
Carson, who do you think's a sleeper in this East?
Sleeper, I would go with the Cavaliers. I think Donovan Mitchell is really underrated. They're the 4 seed right now, so I would go with the Cavs. They're being coached really well. They put together a nice bounce back last couple of years ever since LeBron left. Jared Allen, a nice piece on that team as well. And then again, I gotta go with your Knicks, man. Put $5 on them, 150-1 a few months ago. I'm riding it out. I'm hoping they do some damage in the playoffs if they can somehow make a run. But again, like Ryan was saying, how much depth do you guys really have on your team? You got RJ Barrett, who has some flashes and some quicks here and there. And then you got Jalen Brunson, who I've been really impressed with so far this year. And then Julius Randle, again, we were all hyping him up last year, Kenny and Kurt. And then when the playoffs came around, he completely fell flat on his face. So we'll see what he does. I think he's got to have another bounce back year. But I think the Cavs are a sleeper. But again, 151 bet I have on the Knicks, so I'm rooting for them.
Let's go, Kurt. What are you going with here?
Yeah, listen, of course I'm going to take our Knicks, and I think honestly though, this first round playoff, like there's a lot of pressure. I got on the ESPN today with Han, and Stephen A was on earlier with Han, and he was saying that this Knicks season is a failure. An absolute failure if they don't get out of the first round because it's Donovan Mitchell and the whole we didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell. And I agree. I think the pressure is going to be on the Knicks in this series. I really do, because RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, right? They didn't want to trade those guys for Mitchell. So if Mitchell comes in here and lights this team up and beats them in a series and he's averaging 36 a game, it's a problem. And it's a lot of pressure on the Knicks. But I think if the Knicks get by that series, and I'll pick them to get by, whoever they're playing, it's going to be house money. You go and say, oh, well, you got to go to Milwaukee. But you need fearless people. Brunson's fearless. Quickly's fearless. Grimes is fearless. Thibodeau, he's going to coach this team up. I mean, listen, and you're playing in the Garden where it's going to be rocking. I mean, listen, they're dangerous. They are. I mean, it's just this first series is just tough because Donovan Mitchell is going to want to put on a show against the Knicks in New York. They got the home court. So, you beat them, though. It's house money everywhere else, man.
Brad, I just texted Carson what you said in the chat. So Carson, check your phone. I don't know if that's something of an emergency that you might want to look into. I just didn't want to read that over to you.
Yeah, you're good. Thanks, Kenny.
You're welcome. So I'm going to say agree with the Knicks, but I'm going to go to Heat as well. Spoelstra, heck of a coach. Jimmy Buckets, Bam Adebayo. These guys get hot.
And they can shoot too. Robinson, Hero, they shoot.
Robinson, Hero, they can shoot. Is Kyle Lowry playing or is he out? You got Kyle Lowry
the other night a little bit.
You got Kyle Lowry over there still. Dangerous team. So whoever they're playing in the first round, I'd watch out. Let's flip over to the West. Same questions. Big three, Carson. You got the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, and the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's most dangerous out of these three?
Wow, I gotta go, man. I would say the Nuggets because of Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think he's had a really good bounce back year. But the Grizzlies have a lot of depth on their team. Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., my boy Xavier Tillman from MSU. Even when the whole Ja Morant drama going on, they've still held on to the 2 seed in the West. And I think even last year they played even better without their star player. That just goes to show how well-rounded of a team they are. So I'm gonna say the Grizzlies. Believe it or not, I love Jokic. I think the Nuggets, rightfully so, probably gonna take down the 1 seed. But I think if Ja Morant he gets his head back together, I would fear the Grizzlies big time in the West.
I'm gonna let Kurt and Ryan go, but I'll just agree with you, Carson, real quick. They got the experience, they got the playoff experience from last year, so now they're hungry. I think they're gonna be a dangerous team in the playoffs that people are overlooking, which will go into my next question. Question I have in a couple questions there, but I'm going to agree with you with the Grizzlies. Ja Morant's back, Jackson. They're going to be hungry, and I think they're going to be a little dangerous here in the West. Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with the Kings. The Nuggets are what everyone expected them to be. The Kings. You can't tell me one person who had the Kings in the top 3 in the Western Conference coming into this season. This team is taking everybody by surprise, and I think that there's going to be teams that are going to say, well, the Kings are going to be the Kings at some point and not take them as seriously as they should. You got to take this team seriously. This is a team that can go toe-to-toe with anybody. They've had not quite as hot of a stretch recently, but they have more wins on the road than any other team in the conference, and it's not close. They have the they have the second best point differential in the Western Conference. Just their numbers across the board, their offense is incredible. They're the only team averaging more than 120 points a game. This is a real team, and this is a team that I think that if the team that they face in the first round or even the second round is even a little bit off their game, this is a team that I think can really be a sneaky one going into the playoffs.
And Kurt.
You know, I mean, I agree with Carson and Scoops. I mean, I think the Grizzlies have the best team of the three. I think Sacramento is a team that's definitely not a fluke. But the only thing I'm going to say with Denver is I just think their home court advantage is, I mean, I want to say at one point this year when Jokic played, they were like 30-2 or something ridiculous, like at home. You know, you got the altitude. They just don't lose there. I mean, I would not trust Denver at all on the road in a big game. I wouldn't. But at home, I think it's going to be very, very hard to beat. I mean, I could definitely see Denver in a lot of game sevens. Like, they win their home games, they lose their road games. And, so them is the 1 seed. I'm still going to say you're the favorite because of that home court advantage, but it's close, man, with those 3 teams. And don't forget Golden State. I mean,
well, yeah, I got a good question.
We'll
for
get
you
into
guys
that
next.
later.
I got a question right after this
West.
one. I got a good question for you guys that you said the Warriors. So just thought of this question 5 minutes ago. And I'll start with you, Kurt, since you just brought them up. Lakers or Warriors? Who's the more dangerous team in the playoffs?
I'm still going Warriors. I mean, they're another team. Like, are you really going to beat them in Golden State? I
30-8. I think 30-8 and 9-30 on the road.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like they're just kind of now like we don't even care about the road. Like we'll win 1 of 3, and then we'll beat you in all our home games. I mean, that's what their philosophy is going to be. And Coach Breslin saying if the Lakers are healthy, I think the Lakers. Listen, Lakers are going to be tough too, but I am not going against Golden State in a playoff. No way.
I'm with Coach Breslin on the Lakers. I'll let Ryan answer next, but I'm with Coach Breslin with the Lakers.
What's up, Coach?
Yeah, so you just said you're not going to go against Steph Curry in a playoff game. Unfortunately, the Lakers have LeBron James, who I'm not going against in a playoff game. I know that he isn't what he used to be physically and isn't what he used to be, from a certain standpoints. This is still one of the most intelligent basketball players we've ever seen. And this is still somebody who, even when he's off the ball, even if he lets Anthony Davis take over, if Anthony Davis is healthy and 100% all in, locked in the game, that is a 2 that I can, or a 1 and 2 pairing that I think can go up against anybody in the Western Conference. So I'm going to say don't count out the Lakers until proven otherwise.
And Carson, which way are you heading?
Yeah, Warriors, Lakers. I'm just going to go Warriors. Again, Steph and Clay, in my opinion, 1-2 combination, greatest shooters ever, and they've done it. The defending champs last year, and they kind of just barely kind of skid by. But once it's playoff time, give Steph Curry the ball, the greatest point guard ever, in my opinion. I would go Warriors over that, just kind of for fun. Updated odds on FanDuel. You've got the Nuggets to win it all are 9.5 to 1. The Warriors are 9.5 to 1. Grizzlies are 19 to 1. The Lakers are 27 to 1. And Ryan's Kings, talk about value with this, 65 to 1 as the 3 seed in the West. I'm going to throw a couple bucks on the Kings.
All right, I got a quick hitter.
Let me get a couple comments from Coach Breslin. He wants to know how we're doing. We're all doing well, Coach. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well too. Coach is also replying to Sis. What's up, Sis? Keep him out of New Jersey. No thanks. LOL. Yeah. Replying about Aaron Rodgers. And then also he's saying, remember, they also have D'Angelo Russell. And I was just going to say this before I continued, who is very good as well. Don't forget about him. Very underrated. And another underrated player to watch out for the Lakers is Rui Hachimura. And that you pair them up, that's a good 4. It could be a little dangerous. Like Ryan said, LeBron, I'm not taking anything away from Curry and the Warriors, but they do struggle on the road. So you can get them to win a game on the road, Kurt, but what makes you think they're going to win every game at home? So that's where I'm going to go with the Lakers as the more dangerous team going forward in this playoff. But
All right,
it
so
would
here
not
we go.
surprise me if the Warriors advance too.
Rapid fire question. Okay, rapid fire question. You could either take these three teams or these three teams to get out of the West. The first set of teams are your 1 seed Denver, 2 seed Memphis, 3 seed Sacramento Kings. So you have that group, or your second group, the 5th seed Warriors, 6th seed Clippers, 7th seed Lakers. I'm taking 5, 6, and 7. Scoops, who you taking?
No, I'm still taking 1, 2, and 3 in this situation. As much as I respect what those latter 3 teams have done, what have you done for me lately? And just the first 3 that you named, just in recent months, have just been more formidable up and down. Again, like I said, I would not count out the Lakers in a playoff series. But if you're asking me, to take a batch of those 3, I'm still taking the 1, 2, and 3.
Carson?
Yeah, again, like the regular season is so bizarre because I've watched basketball here and there, and it just looks like the playoffs are just such a different animal, just completely all around. And I got to go with you, Kurt. I think the star firepower, I'm going to go with Steph Curry, Clay, Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, AD, 5, 6, 7. I mean, that's put up or shut up. It's the playoffs. I would go the 5, 6, 7.
Kenny?
That's tough. I mean, reluctantly 5, 6, 7, but I really want to take the 1, 2, 3 because I feel they're the underdogs here, and I'm the underdog. The Kings, an underdog story all year. They got the 3 seed, and then the Nuggets, who are struggling now, but I think they're going to be a force when the playoffs come. I do. Kurt, you said it. Home court, like playing in Denver is a different atmosphere, And then you got Memphis. They're going to be hungry with John Morant. So. But then you got the Stars and the 5, 6, 7, and don't forget about the 4 seed, the Suns.
Exactly. Right. We're not saying the Suns. I mean, they're one of the favorites to get out of there too.
So I'm gonna take 5, 6, 7, but just by a hair, like not much of a difference. Want to read Coach Breslin's comments?
Yeah,
Kurt, and then
Coach is
we'll
saying
move on?
I would agree with that with the Kings. They have not been there. They had a great season, but in a 7-game series, can they get it done in year 1? He's also saying, I agree. I would take teams 5, 6, 7, but I think the Nuggets are the best team in the West.
Fair enough. Kurt, we could do 5 minutes Knicks, and then we'll get into baseball with Ryan
Sounds good.
Wrap up the second half of the show. You got anything, Knicks, Kurt? I got one little thing for you, unless you want to do some with the Knicks.
No, I mean, again, the only thing is the question that was raised by Alan Hahn and Stephen A., and I totally agree with them. If they lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round this year, again, because it's Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, they didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell, is this season a failure? And I'm going to agree with Stephen A. and say, yes, it is a failure. Scoops.
So, again, I'm not trying to make a swipe at the Knicks here. I've heard every single year for the last 5 years, we're going to get Kyrie, we're going to get KD, we're going to get Zion, we're going to get Mitchell, it feels like every year the Knicks expect to get 2 or 3 stars that they don't get. So I think that, yes, it is, but I think that that's set on your own. Like, I think that that's self-inflicted by the Knicks and by the Knicks, fan base and Knicks media. Again, New York is a different animal. I understand that, but coming into the season, I don't think that if you're looking at the teams based on how the rosters are stacked, I don't think that the season's a disappointment from the standpoint of how well the team finished. I think it's a standpoint of the fact that the Knicks, have been self-imposing these expectations and these beliefs that they're going to go and get everybody in a bag of chips, and then that doesn't happen. They bring in Jalen Brunson and R.J. Barrett as I don't want to say consolation prizes because they're still good players. I think that's where the disappointment comes from, is the fact that, they keep talking themselves into the fact that these guys are guarantees to come to New York, and then they don't.
I just think the two things with this is, one, Kenny's boy, I'll call him Kenny's boy, Julius Randle, had a atrocious playoff series 2 years ago against Atlanta, where he just totally fizzled out. But I think more importantly is because it's the Cavs, because it's Donovan Mitchell. And listen, the Knicks were the ones who said, not giving Barrett, not giving Grimes. He wanted to be a Knick. They were saying Stephen A was on today who said, I flat out asked him face to face. Donovan Mitchell said, my bags were packed. I was heading to New York. New York said, nope, I can't give that much up for him. And this series is going to sting if it comes back to the one player who you could have had and you decided it's too much and he beat you. It's a failure. It is a failure, in my opinion. Carson.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
If they lose to Cleveland in the first round,
Yeah,
and Donovan Mitchell goes off and basically RJ Barrett and Grimes, the players they didn't want to trade for him, like he just eats them alive, is it a failure, the season?
Yeah, I mean, you got expectations. You got to meet them. I mean, you guys made the playoffs last year, and then you guys said, the fans said F Trae Young, and then Trae Young put you guys to rest. So now it's kind of your redemption tour. You guys are a higher seed this year. But, I mean, if you don't at least put up a competitive fight with the Cavs, especially the guy that rumors were of Donovan Mitchell going to the Garden and he craps all over you, I think definitely it's a huge failure.
See, and Coach Breslin, yes, if they don't get out of round one, it would be a failure. And this is why, like, I argue with Scoops in our group's chat. Like, expectations change now. The Knicks have been terrible, Kenny. Terrible for the last 20 years. One time, one playoff series they won. And everyone would be like, yeah, but you're going to win almost 50 games. But it doesn't matter. Expectations change like this. That we want to be competing. And if we don't win a championship in the next 3 years, epic failure. You're New York. Go get your players. You got 9 draft picks. You got young talent. You got Brunson, Randall, Barrett. Like Carson said, let's go. Let's go now. Expectations change. And if it's changing because you're in New York, you should be able to win. So epic. If they don't get out of round one, failure. Kenny, close it out.
Failure, and I'll tell you why. Out of the big 4 sports, I think the NBA draft is where you're getting the least amount of talent at the, after the first few picks. And if you trade for Donovan Mitchell, I don't care if they want 10 first-round picks. I'm giving them to them. You know why? Because those picks are going to be in the 20s, because I'm going to be competing in the East as a top 4 team, in my opinion, every year that Mitchell's on the team. And where's the Jazz going to pick? In the 20s. And what kind of talent are you getting in the 20s? Maybe one guy out of every 20 turns out to be a superstar.
Right. Who cares who the Jazz get? Who cares?
Who's picked in the 20s? So the picks mean nothing to me in the NBA. All due respect, if you're Carson's team, the Pistons, yeah, that matters to me because I'm in the lottery and I'm near the top of the lottery.
Right.
But for the Knicks, 20, in an NBA where you're only getting a top 5, sometimes even less. Look at Zion, Ja Morant, and Barrett. It was only those 3 supposed to be coming out of that draft. 3 players. Who cares about draft picks?
Right.
Am I going to be the worst team in the NBA if I get Donovan Mitchell? Hell no. Right. I'm going to be near the top of the NBA East. So yes, it is an epic failure to answer your question. And 2, you give up anything, football, you don't have minor leagues players coming up from the minors in basketball. You have that in baseball and hockey. NFL draft, you got a 3 to 4 deep draft. You're getting sleepers in the 5th, 6th round. Undrafted players. You're still getting sleepers.
Yeah.
NBA, you're getting 3 or 4 players a year now.
Right.
So to not trade for a superstar, I think it would be a huge epic failure if we lose to the Cavaliers.
Okay. Coach Breslin saying they have made progress. They have to take the next step. Use Randall as trade bait.
I agree with that, Coach. Quick question for Kurt, and then I'll just change it to, you know what? No, I'll just ask all 3 of the same question. Randall, sprained ankle, getting evaluated now in about a week. If he's a no-go, Kurt, or if he's limited, who has to step up for the Knicks?
I'm going to be honest. personally, I think like Quickly and Josh Hart. I don't think you can tell Obi Toppin right now, hey, go get 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 or 6 assists, whatever Randall's getting. I mean, there's only 3 players in the NBA that's doing that. So I'm gonna have to say it's gonna be the guards. I'm gonna, guards and small forward. I think Josh Hart and I think Quickly. I mean, listen, I love Quickly. I think Quickly is one of I trust Quickly. And I'm going to say Quickly and Hart would have to be really, definitely like the 3 and 4th, or I'm sorry, probably a 3rd and 4th scorer for us. But hopefully Randall's playing.
Hopefully Randall's playing. I'm gonna go. I like Josh Hart needs to step up, but he's done enough though for me. Obi Toppin needs to step up. Ryan and Carson, you can answer it if you want, or if you don't really have an answer, I understand. Carson, you have an answer, or you don't really?
Yeah, no,
roster?
I kind of what you were talking about last week on your radio call in. I would say Obi Toppin for sure. He was kind of a high regarded boom or bust piece to your guys' franchise a couple of years ago in the draft, and he's been a solid player. I wouldn't say superstar, but he's been a decent foundational piece. But I think he's got to show his flash in the playoffs, even if it's just defensively, make a big defensive presence for you guys. He doesn't have to be the high flashy scorer like Kurt was saying to get 20, 25 a game, but a couple blocks, couple steals here and there, that could be a big impact.
Brad's asking kind of like a wits and wagers portion question. He wants to know if any of us use the Caesar Sportsbook. We kind of stick with FanDuel for the most part.
Mhm.
Kurt and I, Ryan. I don't know if anybody else use. Kurt and I use Brad. Sorry. We use FanDuel, but Caesar Sportsbook should be very similar to FanDuel, I would think. I think Obi Toppin has to step up. I think there's multiple players have to step up if Randall's out, but if Randall's out, we'll see. They're gonna have to step up. But I think that's all I got for Knicks, Kurt. So we can get Ryan into baseball here to, finish the show off tonight. So I'm gonna pass it off to him for a little MLB Q&A, and then he's gonna have a little Yankee weekly for us. And when Paul comes back, he's gonna do a little Met one for us too. So we'll let Ryan do the Major League Baseball first, and then we'll finish off with Yankees.
Cool. So as y'all know, Major League Baseball kicked off last week. We're about roughly 6-7 games in. And I think so far, I mean, obviously it's 6 games in, so, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that we should make any declarations about anybody. 6 games in, positive or negative. That being said, pardon me, looking at the way that the season has started out, the Rays are the only team that has yet to lose a game, according to what I can see here. And on the other side of things, it's been a pretty poor start for teams like the Phillies, who are now 1-5 after losing again today to New York, actually. So looking at what we've seen so far out of the American League and the National League, again, I know it's very early, but I want to look at the Mets actually right now. The Mets are 3-4, and they've gotten off to perhaps the slower start out of anybody that we've seen that we expected to start on a hotter note. How far into the season do you think it is time to start being concerned about teams like the Mets, or to believe teams like the Rays are legitimate? How far into the season do we have to get before you say, these numbers that we're seeing, these look like they're going to start to hold up more throughout the season? This team is for real, or this team is legitimately disappointing? I'll go in the order I see it. What do you got for me, Carson?
Yeah, my Tigers just got freaking swept by the Rays a couple days ago. So I think the Rays definitely are legit. They're no joke. It'll be interesting to see what happens as the season progresses. But I think long term, you got to have a nice foundational piece of guys. Like you were saying earlier, Ryan, last week, baseball's not a 1-2 man show. It's a bunch of guys on the pitching staff, the coaches, the infielders, the outfielders. It's a whole group, a whole organization. 1 or 2 guys can't just get it done to win a World Series. So I think the team that has the most depth, and that could very well be the Rays in the American League moving forward.
All right, I'll kick it down now to Kurt. Kurt, what's your kind of where's your head at in terms of how far into the season we have to get before you start thinking, oh, this team is actually for real, or this team, is more disappointing than we expected?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, I know that's really a good question. I never really thought about that. I mean, maybe a quarter into the season, 40 games,
40 games or so,
something
yeah.
something like to that effect. But listen, the Met fans, I mean, I'm one of the people here who I know I picked the Mets, and listen, we said the Diaz thing, they blew another lead tonight. Ottavino gave up a home run in the ninth. That's got to get fixed, and Scherzer hasn't looked great. Verlander was injured. I think the Mets, eh, you know, I think the Mets are the one team that, again, we talked about this. I think Cohen, Uncle Stevie is going to do whatever he's got to do to get whoever he's got to get. The Mets just got to get into the playoffs. I'm not so, is it nice not having to play the wild card game, the wild card series? Yes. But if I could line up Scherzer and Verlander in a playoff series, I really don't care. I just want to get in with them. But I would say 40 games, Carson, to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Kenny, same question to you.
Normally, I would agree with Kurt with the 40 games, but I've seen enough in 1 week with the Rays. They do it every year. They're there, right, Ryan? They're in that NFC. They're in the American League East run every
What
year.
I was saying all offseason. I said I'm not going to count out Tampa Bay for 1 second.
Every year they're there. So 1 week in, they're hot. You know what? I've seen enough. They're going to be contender this year. Mets, I'm a little worried about them after 1 week. They lost Diaz in the World Baseball Classic. Verlander's hurt. It's a strain, but at that age, is he going to come back and be a force? Scherzer's struggling, like you said. I'm a little worried about the Mets. They're lucky that the Phillies got off to a slow start, but you still got the Braves there, and you got the Marlins there. And don't count the Marlins out in that American League East.
Yeah.
So they're in a tough division. So, but the Rays, I'll stick towards the Rays. I mean, complete team, like every year, they're dangerous. I couldn't name probably 6 players on that team off the top of my head, but you know what? They're there every year. So
Coach Breslin's saying,
hats
I
off to
think the
them.
Mets are in trouble because they will not catch the Braves and the Phillies will get better.
Again, the injuries, maybe they made a mistake going to get Verlander. Maybe they should have tried to keep DeGrom. We'll see. We'll see who ends up with the better part of that deal. But I would worry, Ryan. I know it's a weekend and it's very early to say that, but I would worry if I'm the Met fans, and I would be ecstatic if I'm a Rays fan because they're going to be a contender.
I would agree with that. And then I get a second question, right, before we get into
that. Oh, yeah.
Yankees.
You got time.
Cool. Next question. This is not really team specific because, again, I think it's kind of early in the season to get too team specific right now. I mean, we're not even at the equivalent of what one game would mean in the NFL season right now. But looking at the league holistically for the games that you've watched, whether they're Yankees games, whatever team, Tigers, or just general baseball games, what are some of your takeaways from what you've seen so far of the implementation of the new pace of play rules? And I'll leave it kind of open-ended because I want your general thoughts. Carson, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I think it's great for baseball. I watched kind of the opening day couple games, and I could see just the pace overall was going by faster, which is great, especially in today's generation where people's attention spans are definitely lacking. So I think the pitch clock is interesting. I think that's helping to smooth or make the game go by smoothly and more efficiently. I kind of like the new rules. I had my questions about them because people were wondering if it would kind of break the old school traditional baseball style, but I think especially now with the faster pacer games like the NFL and the NHL and the NBA, I think baseball had to do something quick, and I think the new rules, I'm definitely a fan of them. It's going to make baseball, at least in my opinion, more watchable since they won't drag on for an eternity.
Interesting. Same order as before. I'll kick it down to Mr. Valente.
Yeah, just like Carson said, man, I love it. You don't want to watch a 4-hour baseball game, but even more than that, Ryan, this stolen base thing, man. You sent me something today about Torres or Ricky Henderson. This is real baseball. It's I'll sit here and argue with anybody. Real baseball is never get up, strike out, hit home runs. That's not how baseball was meant to play. It's a terrible sport to watch when that's what you're trying to do, and you do not win championships like that. So this now, getting people on, stealing bases, you got to worry about it. Now all of a sudden, I get on first, steal second, base hit, bang, it's a run. I love it. It's real baseball. It's how I grew up with baseball, right? It's how we all grew up with baseball, and it's how you win. So I love it.
I agree with your.
Oh,
I
sorry.
agree
Go
with
ahead,
your-
Ryan.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with your stolen bases comment. It's been a lot of fun to watch, Torres and Volpe, and I said to somebody the other day, I forgot that that in the Bronx that stealing bases is legal because I never see it done.
Yeah.
I'll go over to you, Kenny.
I got some mixed feel. I guess because I'm still kind of getting used to it. I got some mixed feelings about a couple of the rules. I love the pitch clock. I love that. I love that pace of the game. The stolen bases seem fun, but I watched this Yankee Phillies game today, and one that really confused the heck out of me and really could have turned the game around. Cole, if you didn't see the game, Garrett Cole was having a great game, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
He's pitching
Yeah.
great. And I forget who was up, Ryan, but it was a 3-ball count.
Yeah.
And Trevino called timeout. And because he called timeout too late in the pitch clock, it was an automatic walk, and the runner got first base.
Yeah.
Boone comes to take Cole out. Loizaga gives up a run. It's now it's 2-1 at that time, and it was like, this game's getting turned around because of one timeout call that wasn't allowed. That
Right.
confused me, and I want to look more into that rule before I say I like all these rules, because that one I didn't like too much, to be honest with you.
Kenny,
If you
Brad
want to
saying,
call timeout and go talk to your pitcher, you should have a right to go talk to your pitcher.
Brad saying, yeah, it's nice because I don't have the attention span to sit there and watch for 3 hours. And you know what? Look at these numbers. There's a lot of people that 2.5, 240. I mean, that's a fast-paced game, man. That's fun now. It's fun.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of rules I like, but I want to look, I don't know about that timeout rule where a catcher can't go, and, they were having problems with the pitch count. I guess the pitch call, Cole was shaking them off. They weren't agreeing. Trevino calls timeout. You don't get the timeout because you
Kenny,
don't call it within the first 3 seconds.
Can I play devil's advocate for you, though, real quick?
You could try.
Okay. I'm in football, right? I'm in football. I'm the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm in Arrowhead. Place is going nuts in a championship game. I can't hear what's going on. I just don't time out as much as I want. I have 3. Do I take it? Or do I really say, I got to save this shit? Let's change this up, because hey, that's on the pitcher and catcher to get together. I mean, that's
they're only giving them like 5 seconds to get together, Kurt. And if they don't, you should be able to call timeout. And you know what? Like you said, you get 2 a game or 3 a game.
I don't know the rule. What is the rule, Scoops? What is the rule with the timeouts? I don't know the rule.
Which rule in particular? I'm sorry, I had to
The
grab my
one
chart.
where Trevino today got denied his timeout, and it ended up a walk, and could have turned that game around.
I was working. I did not see today's game live.
Okay, what happened was, and I'll try and do this real quick, it was a 3-2 count. Trevino and Cole were in agreement on the pitch, and there was a couple seconds left on the pitch clock. Trevino called timeout, and the umpire denied it and gave the batter the walk. The next time, the Boone came to get Loizaga. Loizaga came in, gave up a run. It's now 2-1. Game could have been turned around because of that, what I think is a stupid rule. You should give the catcher a couple timeouts a game to go talk to his pitcher.
I think what they were trying to do, and I don't know what the exact number or limit is. I mean, we've all seen it. The pitchers and catcher, can go up 3, 4, 5, 6 times in an inning.
Right.
So I think that's what they were trying to cut down. But of course, like you said, and it's similar with this, like the ball strike rule, where if I get that there's a certain point where if a pitcher doesn't get the pitch off in a certain amount of time, it's an automatic ball if the batter's not in the box. But there's, on the batter side, there's something that's, in my opinion, very touchy and very subjective, where it's if he's not locked in 8 seconds before or something, the phrasing of it is very bizarre to me. And I think that leaves a lot up to subjectivity, which I know a lot of rules are interpreted subjectively, but something about that I wasn't wild about.
I think they
Kenny,
put too many rules in effect in 1 year, and it's a lot to follow.
I agree with that. And I was talking to my buddy about this the other day, just real quick. All of these rules that I'm watching them implement and that I'm watching, unfold for the first time or the first few times, I'm doing this on TV. I don't live near a Major League Baseball stadium. So if I go to, let's say I want to go to a game at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, that means I'm buying a plane ticket. I'm likely booking a hotel. I'm, travel costs and all of that. I'm doing that and getting to a game, and I'm going to be there for maybe 2 hours. And if I have a hard time getting to my seat, then I'm perhaps missing the first couple of, the first part of the game. And people, baseball's an experience. People want to be able to go, like, there's no halftime. There's no opportunity at halftime to go to concessions, go use the restroom, go, look at the gift shop, one thing or another. There's no opportunity to take in the non-game aspects of it, unless you want to go during the game pretty much. So I think that, yeah, I get the reason for this, but I think you're gonna have issues with potentially. You don't want to turn people away because of these new changes where baseball is something that's been so true to its tradition and so true to it, the way that it's developed. You don't want to run the risk of alienating those people, because I have a hard time believing that there's a significant number of people who hear, oh, baseball games are now 2 hours and 30 minutes instead of 3 hours. Now I'm going to start watching baseball. I don't think that number of people who were not originally going to watch baseball games are suddenly going to start watching games because they're 20 minutes shorter. I just don't see it.
Kenny, Jody Moncrief, good evening, gents. He's asking if you should be worried about his
No,
Astros
don't be
yet?
worried about your Astros, Jody.
But Kenny, you know what? And I want to ask
Kurt, I know we're
Carson
going to do this real quick.
real quick.
We got to get Ryan in with his Yankees Weekly.
All right, I
so.
want to ask Carson one question real quick. Carson, because, you're a baseball fan. But
Yeah.
to me, Kenny mentioned about the rules and everything. Do you agree with me or disagree with this statement? All the stuff that they've taken out, like especially with the pitch count, right? It just proves that stuff is not needed to play baseball, right? Like, I do not need to see Manny Machado spit on his gloves, take them out, step out. No, I'm serious. But now 8 guys do that in a batting order. I mean, you don't need that. Am I wrong for saying that?
Yeah, and that's the part I do like, and I think I would agree and disagree, because I think, like, there's also kind of like the nostalgia factor of, like, like Big Papi spitting in his hands, clapping his hands. Like, there's something like impactful about that. Like, okay, Big Papi's up at the plate. Like, let's all pay attention. Like, I think different guys have their own different routines that they did back then. So it does kind of suck in a way that you're not getting that little, I guess, entertainment factor. But I do agree, though, Kurt, if it was every single guy, all right, let me adjust my hand, twist my batting gloves, let me adjust my crotch 3 times before I step in the batter.
Exactly.
Like,
But he's right.
Like, enough's enough. Like, come on, let's get on with it. I think if to a couple people, like, it was fun to see, like David Ortiz, like, he had his routine going on, but every single player, like, okay, come on, step in the batter's box, pitch the ball, let's go.
And
so
I do agree. Now, why
you
don't have to throw 87 times to first base?
Yeah,
you got 2. Make sure time it up. It's strategy. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get Ryan's Yankee Weekly, guys, to wrap up this week's show. So let's give him the floor, and then I have a feeling, Carson, it may get a little heated each week with Kurt and Ryan with Yankees. So be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared.
So
we'll try and be the mediators here.
Yeah, I had
Carson.
a good time in the group chat today.
Yeah, no, I can't. I'm glad we didn't start with this, because I still came in heated off of that one. But no, I hear a lot about, when it comes to the Yankees, this is not really on-field related, but I hear a lot when it comes to the Yankees about how, they got the number one, or they don't have the number one payroll, but they have a top payroll. The Mets have obviously dwarfed them now. But in my mind, looking at the guys that they're paying, the top 3 guys that they're paying are not the guys that I'm concerned about. The Judge, Cole, and Stanton. But more often than not, those guys have been doing their job since those deals were signed. Well, I mean, Judge only just signed his deal, but even before that, those were not the guys I was concerned about. The guys making $10 to $20 million, that sort of second tier range, the Donaldsons, the DJ LeMahieu's, the Aaron Hicks, the Gleyber Torres, Luis Severino, who's hurt, even Frankie Montas, who's a little bit under that range. Those are the guys that I really need to see production from this year. Luckily, Gleyber Torres has come on a heater. You've got him. I just was talking to someone earlier today about how he had a statistic. I don't remember the exact one, but he was the first player to have a walk and a stolen. I think it was a walk and a stolen base in each of his first few games since Ricky Henderson. Which anytime you put yourself in that conversation with Ricky Henderson, you're doing something great. So I'm glad to see that from Torres. But I think that the other guys that I mentioned, that those are the guys where I think that the Yankees are really having the issue, is that the guys that are getting that second tier money are not putting up that production. Last year, DJ LeMahieu had a pretty solid year. But you got to be giving me more than just decent production for that amount of money. You got to give me some good to very good at times. And that's what I need to see this year. I need to see guys like, DJ LeMahieu. I need to see Josh Donaldson. I need to see, Torres keep some of this up. I need to see Severino when he comes back. I need to see Frankie Montas when he's finally healthy. I need to see these guys coming out and giving me production, because it's one thing to be, if you're on a minor league deal or making $2 or $3 million, I understand, you're kind of an end of the roster type of contract. When you're making 8 figures, when you're making that sort of, you're not getting paid like the superstars, but you're getting that sort of solid second tier. I can't be having you, posting, 1 win above replacement and a 9, slightly below league average to league average numbers. And I'm not going to go out and say, everybody who's not a superstar absolutely is, go and get rid of. I'm not going to say that. I don't think that that's realistic. You're not going to have a roster of 26, great players, and you can't just go and, as much as Kurt would love to, you can't just go and trade all your prospects for, veterans. But I think that there's a difficult situation that the Yankees end up in later this year if they don't have the ability to rely on those players to get that type of production. I've been saying you can reevaluate Cashman all you want. You can reevaluate Boone all you want. I would not do either of those things, but you can reevaluate those two all you want. The players got paid 8-figure contracts. They need to put up the production. They need to be reliable in April and May and June, and they need to be reliable moreover in September and October. We did not see that last year. We have not seen that in the last 10 years, and that's the reason why the Yankees are struggling. They're not getting that Robin production. They're not getting the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordans on the team.
I'll answer that, but
you want to
yeah,
answer?
yeah,
We'll
real
go
quick.
real quick.
I mean,
couple minutes we'll get on this, and then we'll get closing thoughts in.
Donaldson, waste of money. Aaron Hicks, total complete waste of money. Frankie Montas, waste of money. I'm not going to say Severino's a waste of money, but you either do it 2 ways. You either you overpay for waste of money, which is what you have, which is why you will never win with those guys, or you package your farm club and you go and you get somebody that's worth another $30 million guy, $20 million guy. So when you look in your starters and you say, who are we starting? We can't start Frankie Montas. We can't start James Paxton. We can't start Sonny Gray. Those are all guys the general manager got. You go out and say, oh, I could start Justin Verlander. Okay. I could go and get Luis Castillo. Okay. Because in a world when you want to win a World Series, and the Yankees' only goal is to win a World Series. I don't want to hear it any other way from anybody. The Yankees' goal is it's either win a World Series or complete failure. We're saying the Knicks are failing if they lose round 1. Yankee fans are going to say we have a winning season. You better. You have the top 3 payroll in baseball. If you don't,
I was not saying a winning season makes it successful for the Yankees. I was saying you don't fire a general manager who's had 28 out of 30.
But here's my point. If you want to win a World Series, you can't go into a playoff with the poorest pitching staff. Pitching wins championships. So you know what? If I got to give up, Kenny made a great point. We talked online.
By the way, Carson and I guess are the jury in this.
No. Yeah, real
debate.
quick.
Yeah.
Garcia, Schmidt, all these, they're great. They're great. Where are they? Where are they? Nowhere. Nowhere. You could have got, you know who you could have got for them in the past? We want to win world championships. You haven't won since 2009. It's disgraceful. So you know what? Yeah. Get rid of the farm club. Go win a World Series. Then you don't play Aaron Hicks. You don't play Donaldson. You don't play IKF. Those guys are bums, man. They seriously, I'm not even joking. Like Aaron Hicks is a bum. He's not even a major league player. And you're paying this guy on the Yankees? Are you joking? Why? Because you know why? Because this guy Cashman and Joey Clam said it last week. That's his boy. And he looks terrible if he has to cut him and release him. And he doesn't want to do it. And the same thing with Donaldson. Those guys do not belong up on this major league team if you want to win a World Series. And then you're saying August 1st will be gone. Why am I wasting time? Get him out.
3 years ago, the Yankees cut Jacoby Ellsbury for that exact reason. This front office has been fine, eating their mistakes, eating their money, and sending guys on their way. You're not going to.
So why is Aaron Hicks on this field? Just answer that question. Why?
What do you mean? Why is he on this field?
Why is he on this roster? He stinks. If you're telling me he's a good player, something's wrong. Come on.
I didn't say
Can I be a mediator here?
Yes.
What's up?
All right. I'm watching. Okay. I think it's time that Harrison Bader comes, and I joked around with Ryan when he said Yankees signed Frenchie Cordero. I said, who's he? One of the pink ladies from Greece?
Yeah.
But you know what? He looks pretty good. He's got a great arm. You know what? Bader comes back. Aaron Hicks designate for assignment.
God.
I agree.
You know, that's what you got to do. You know,
I
and
agree.
you know, if you don't do it, then that's where I got the problem with Cashman if he doesn't do it.
But
Kurt
the
took
whole
me.
thing,
Kurt
but the whole
Kurt
thing
took
is,
me literally.
well, real fact. The whole thing though is, I'm sorry, Boone, Cashman, you're the Yankees, and you know what? If George was alive, he would be gone because your job is to win a World Series. You haven't even come close in the last 13 years.
Do you remember? I love George Steinbrenner, God rest his soul. Do you remember how crappy the Yankees were for 20 years before
Doesn't
they got
matter. But he won. The Yankees' job isn't to win 90 games. Their job's to win world championships.
They won a lot less than that doing the
So you know
Steinbrenner
what?
way before they had Stick Michael.
I'll take that run when they were dominant. I'll take that and 6 losing seasons before that. No one's going to win 100 games every year in the world. You're not. But this team's not even coming close. They just got swept in the ALCS. Swept. And people
thanks,
Kurt.
I was at game 4. I know that. I was at game 4.
We're running late, but I'd like Carson's thoughts on this because he's not a Yankee fan.
Mhm.
What do you got any thoughts on this, Carson? Because you hear Kurt, you hear our arguments as New York fans and Yankee fans.
No, I think you guys are both making legit points. And I think like Kurt's saying, though, at the end of the day, you're the New York Yankees. You're supposed to be the cream of the crop, top dollar, win it all. It's win it all or bust. And if you can't do that, then what are we doing with all these moves? So with Ryan's point too, you gotta let things kind of develop as well into the process. So I get both points, but I think the expectation is there's zero excuses. You guys gotta at least make the championship series, and if you don't, what are we doing here? You went all in. It's put up or shut up.
Let me.
There are zero excuses, but you guys, they keep comparing us to Houston. Who does Houston have? Bregman, Correa, Altuve. They have the guys that they developed, and that's what the Yankees need to do. They need to also develop draft.
Let me catch up on some comments, Kurt.
29, 2090?
Kurt, I want to get closing thoughts in because this can go on till midnight. All right, I got to get close. I'm going to get to some comments, and then we'll get our closing thoughts on this, and then our closing thoughts in general. Coach Breslin, the best thing about baseball season starting is that it's closer to football season. That is accurate. Keith Brugman from our good friends over at Denver Bronco Roundup with the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Los Angeles Angels are 4-2. We're not out of the running. Heck, we are tied with the Rangers for tops in our division.
Nice.
And then he's replying to Jody that be worried when his Angels beat Ohtani without Ohtani on the mound, beat the Astros without Ohtani on the mound. Welcome, Keith. And then why don't we get one more final thought in on this, and then our final thoughts, Kurt. Go ahead.
What's my final thought
on this Yankee situation right now? And then we'll get back to it next week.
I'm being real here. This is New York, man. You know, the Pirates play to make the postseason, make a wild card, have a little run. The Yankees don't. The Knicks don't. Listen, the Giants don't. People are talking about the Jets. If they get Aaron Rodgers, it's Super Bowl or bust. But we're just going to say for the Yankees, well, we're okay. We're going to no. If they lose again for 15 years, change it up. Get them out and give me somebody else's plan. It's just, and you know what? I'm doing the same with the Knicks. This is New York, man. Win or championship. If you don't win it all, you failed. And
I'm going to go to Carson next for his final thought on this Yankees situation. We're going to give Ryan the final thoughts because on this situation, he's going to get the final word because it's his segment. So we'll get your thoughts next, Carson.
Yeah, no, it's great free entertainment for me. Love seeing you guys go at it. It's priceless. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's the expectations are obviously championships, but at the same time, things do take time to develop. Good things come to those who wait, as the famous quote goes. So I think it's interesting. I think the Yankees are in a unique spot, but I think as the season progresses, I mean, it's the first week. We got to really kind of evaluate this as like midway season that the All-Star break comes around. But I think you guys are both making legit points though, for sure.
And I'll just add one thing, I agree with Kurt and I agree with Ryan on numerous things, but I will say this, Ryan, I think, 95 wins and not, like Kurt said, not getting out of the first round. I'm done with that. It's time to make a move at the deadline if we need to. And we need to get a pitcher. If that means giving up Peraza for a stud pitcher because we got two shortstops, it means giving up Peraza because every minor leaguer doesn't pan out. Yeah, we hope everyone does, but some don't. So you know what? You take that chance and you get that pitcher that's proven in the major leagues. I've seen Cashman give up and didn't want to give up prospects for Verlander. He didn't want to give up prospects for Castillo. Who's it going to be this year? He doesn't want to give up prospects for Ohtani. I don't know what we're going to see, but he better make a move at the deadline if we need it. And with the way this roster is shaped up now, I think we're going to need it. So that'll be my final thoughts. And don't be afraid to give up a Peraza or, somebody else. I really don't want to give up Dominguez, but if somebody, and Ohtani won't come around every year, so, or every generation. So you get a generational player in Ohtani, you give up whoever they want. And that's just one name. But, anything we need, Cashman's got to make that move. It's time to do it because this roster is not going to do it with the way it is now. You see Donaldson swing, it's one hand. Like I got a better. You teach players in Pee Wee level to swing better than Donaldson swings. So I don't know. I would make the moves. That's me. I want to win a World Series. I'm tired of one and done in the playoffs and move on from there. I want to get to the World Series. I want to get to at least the World Series this year. That's my goal. Anyway, Ryan, your final thoughts on this, and then we'll get our final thoughts on the show.
Nobody wants to get to the World Series in the Bronx more than I do. I want it as much as anybody. I also know from an organizational standpoint, Kurt, and not just Kurt, a lot of people, I keep hearing fire Cashman, fire Boone. Okay, that's one half of the puzzle. Are you gonna put a teddy bear up there in the general manager's seat? I need to know who's going in that's going to be better than Brian Cashman. I need to know who the replacement plan is. If you want to promote Gene Afterman, if you want to promote Jim Hendry, cool. We'll talk about those. The thing, but you have these people. But you have these, it's not just going to fix everything to fire the GM or to fire the manager. We need to actually know what the plan
Here's
is.
what I want. I can't give you a name tonight, but I'm not promoting anybody. It hasn't worked since 2009, so clean it out. I'm not going to go from A to B because they're just the same philosophy. Get them out of there.
But that's what I'm saying is anybody who I would potentially want to replace Brian Cashman, you couldn't get because they have a job somewhere else.
Okay, so, but let me ask you something. You're the Yankees. Like you do here. Rick Pitino was in Iona too, right? St. John says, how much? What's the buyout? How much you're making? Check, gone. You're the Yankees. Do it. You're the Yankees. You can get whoever you want. Do it.
Brian, I think my argument, in a nice way of arguing, like Kurt, where you get interrupted 9 million times before you get a word in. I think Cashman's made more mistakes in these last 10 years than he's had good signings or good trades. Ellsbury. You can name, the list can go on and on for his bad mistakes, in my opinion. And maybe that's why you got to move on from this guy. I don't know. I have to go back and look at all the bad mistakes. For all his good ones, I'd say there's at least
Kenny,
three
just
bad
look
ones.
at three. How could you even say Ellsbury? I'm saying Sonny Gray over Verlander, Paxton over I forgot who, Montas over Luis Castillo. That cost him a championship, maybe more. And you gave Verlander to Houston by not getting him. Come on.
Keith Brugman, Yanks have time. New York is brutal to their teams and players. Light up my big city friends. World Series. At least the World Series. Are you kidding me? So spoiled buying those champions. Keith, we haven't been there since 2009, so we are spoiled as Yankee fans when we have the biggest payroll every year. But guys, anything else, Ryan, real quick? Because we're running really late.
Yeah, no, I know we are. The last thing that I'll say is what I've been saying the whole time. You can replace a GM, you can replace a manager. The players signed contracts. They have to go out and perform. If the players are not performing, then you have to either figure out if there's an organizational problem fundamentally in the way that in the way that these players are training and developing, or if it's a problem on the talent acquisition side or the player development. You have to. It's not just as simple as okay. It's not the Yankees aren't just a consistent of three people: Hal, Boone, and Cashman. I think that anybody who thinks that you're gonna fix all these problems by putting out one guy, and frankly, some of the talks about the moves that we've made recently that haven't worked out. I'm looking at the last couple of years. You can take me back to the day that the Yankees made the Frankie Montas trade, the day that the Yankees made any of these trades, Sonny Gray, whatever. Any of these trades that the Yankees made, you take me back to the day where they happened, I'd make the same deal. Yes, in hindsight, it didn't work out, but I can't. If you're getting to you're not going to go back and say, with the same information we had, we would have done it any differently. You can't necessarily, there's no time traveling back to making a different move. That's not sometimes always on the general manager.
So, Kenny, my last question is...
I got to get final thoughts in. I got to go work tonight, boys. So I'm not staying on until midnight. My final question. Wait. I love you guys, but I'm getting off in a couple minutes.
Ryan Pace of the Chicago Bears, the GM.
Yeah.
He's not to blame for picking Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes. It's Mitch Trubisky's fault that he's not Patrick Mahomes.
That's not what I said.
You said the player has to. He got picked too. He should be better than Mahomes.
I didn't say the GM never gets blamed. I said you can't blame him for every single thing that's going wrong with the team right now.
Well, he picked Sonny Gray over Verlander. No, that was an asinine move.
I agree, Kurt, with Ryan. You can't blame him, but Ryan, where I have a problem, and this is going to be my final thought. And we're going to get into final thoughts. Aaron Hicks is still on the roster. We just designated Estevan Florial. I'd rather give Estevan Florial a shot at a young age to try and be an outfielder on the Yankees or a contributing player than keep Aaron Hicks on the roster. But we designate him for assignment. That's where I have the problem with Brian Cashman.
And that I understand.
So that's okay?
I just said that I understand. I understand what Kenny's saying. I understand what Kenny's saying.
But it's a problem. That's a problem what he's doing. It's an issue.
He's got his boys. We all know that. He has his favorites.
He looks bad when he cuts an Aaron Hicks. He looks terrible. He gave him that contract. It's a terrible contract.
All right, guys, let's seriously get into final thoughts because this has got. I knew it was going to get heated.
Of course,
and I know it will get heated every week, Carson.
It's all fun.
I know.
I'll go first. My final thoughts. You can talk about Yankees, Mets, all that. Next Saturday, the real season comes. The team of New York. New York's a city of basketball. Let's go, baby. New York Knicks, Cleveland Cavaliers. It's going to be a great series. Go Knicks. Carson.
Yeah, great show tonight, guys. We got the NBA playoffs, like Kurt was saying, next week. 151. I got on the Knicks, put $5 on them a couple months ago. It's a long shot, but I'll be rooting for you guys. So hopefully you guys can make a run. And less than a month away from the NFL draft. Lions are in a very interesting spot, so we'll see what happens with that. Detroit Lions, man, they're coming. They're hungry. Dan Campbell, 11-1, Coach of the Year. Book it right now. And, good show tonight. I'll see you guys on the show next week.
Scoops.
Carson, where can we find you, Carson? I know you got a little time change too, so if you want to
occasionally we'll switch up the time frame, but I've been doing daily streams every single night on YouTube and Facebook. Just search up Ticket Time if you guys are into casino stuff.
Awesome. Thanks,
Scoops.
Carson.
Final thoughts.
Just real quick, basketball-wise, Andrew Wiggins will not play for the rest of the regular season, and both LeBron and Anthony Davis are active tonight for the Lakers-Clippers game. As for my final thoughts, I'm very excited that baseball season is here. I look forward to seeing how not only the guys that we're used to seeing, but I look forward to seeing, Rodon when he comes back, Montas when he comes back. I look forward to seeing Harrison Bader. And continuing to see how Anthony Volpe develops. I've loved watching him the last few days. I love watching stolen bases happen in New York. I'm not used to that, and I'm enjoying it so far. And like you guys said, the draft is in a few weeks. I hope my Eagles don't take a running back at number 10.
And Mr. Kirkpatrick, certainly not last but not least.
Brad saying great show, and it is intense. Holy crap. In nice
We
words.
love you, Scoops. Let's go, baby. Let's
Brad,
go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Thanks, Brad, Keith, Jody, Coach Breslin, Beelan was on earlier, Jody, a few others. Thank you for listening. I know I missed a few people there, but we appreciate each and every one of you joining in on the conversation and questions each week. Excited for Knicks, excited for draft. Trying to get excited into the Yankees. I'm not yet. I got to see a little more before I get excited because I want to see some moves. If that means playing more of the young guys, that means more of the young guys. But I'm not excited yet with the Yankees, but that can change. But we'll see what happens, and we'll see everyone next week.
Last thing I'll say, Kurt has always been fired up and taking shots at me and sending fire at me. I'm just finally responding back.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All love at the end of the day.
We love it.
Boy.
All right,
He chopped the leg. He chopped the leg off of Kurt tonight. I love it.
See you guys next week.